If you walked into a dental clinic 500 years ago deep inside the rainforest of Central America, you wouldn't find metal needles, buzzing electric drills, or white porcelain crowns. Instead, you would sit on a wooden stool, open your mouth wide, and watch a specialist pull out a hollow bone tube, a handful of abrasive quartz sand, crushed forest plants, and a shimmering bead of green jade. For decades, modern archaeologists assumed these sparkling green smiles were just extreme ancient fashion, a flashy status symbol for wealthy kings. But recent biochemical breakthroughs revealed something far more shocking. The ancient Maya weren't just decorating their teeth with jewels. They had invented a high-tech, antibiotic, pain-relieving dental filling system that outlasts modern fillings by more than 1,000 years. Imagine smiling at someone in an ancient Maya city and flashing a mouthful of polished jade, shiny golden pyrite, turquoise, and black obsidian. To a modern observer, it looks like the ultimate ancient hip-hop grill. But if you look closer at the skulls unearthed by archaeologists across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras, a massive scientific puzzle begins to emerge. Drilling into a living human tooth is one of the most painful, delicate, and dangerous procedures you can perform on the human body. Tooth enamel is the hardest biological substance in existence. Right beneath that enamel lies the dentin. And just below that is the pulp chamber, a fragile, sensitive bundle of blood vessels and raw nerve endings. If an ancient practitioner drilled just a fraction of a millimeter too deep, the nerve would die. Bacteria would flood into the jawbone, triggering excruciating agony, massive swelling, lethal blood infections, and fatal abscesses. Yet, when researchers examined hundreds of ancient Maya skulls under modern microscopes and X-rays, they found something astonishing. Thousands of years before electricity, anesthesia, or sterile surgical steel, Maya dental specialists were drilling perfectly round, microscopic cylindrical holes into front incisors and canines. They were popping in gemstones carved to fit with sub-millimeter precision. And in the vast majority of cases, the patient walked away completely fine, with zero nerve damage, zero bone infection, and teeth that remained fully functional for the rest of their lives. Even crazier? When a modern dentist glues a veneer or a crown onto your tooth, that chemical bonding agent is expected to last maybe 10 to 15 years before it loosens or degrades. But more than half of the gemstone inlays found on Maya skeletons are still glued rock solid to the teeth, after resting for 500 years, inside acidic, wet, rotting jungle soil. What tools did they use? How did patients survive the pain? And what was in the mysterious ancient glue that kept teeth alive in the middle of a tropical rainforest? To understand how this procedure worked, we have to step directly into the ancient dentist's workshop. The specialist didn't have a diamond-tipped electric drill spinning at 400,000 RPM. Instead, they relied on pure mechanical ingenuity and the laws of friction. The dentist used a bow drill or a handheld pump drill fitted with a hollow tube made of bird bone, hardwood, or beaten copper. A hollow tube cannot cut through enamel on its own, so the dentist applied a cutting paste, a thick slurry of water mixed with crushed quartz crystal, volcanic sand, or garnet dust. As the bowstring slid back and forth, the tube spun rapidly against the tooth surface. The tiny abrasive quartz grains rolled under the rim of the tube, grinding away the enamel in a perfect smooth ring. As the drill cut downward, a tiny cylindrical core of enamel was carved out and popped free, leaving behind a perfectly flat-bottomed circular socket. Throughout the process, cold water was continuously dripped onto the tooth. This wasn't just to wash away the grit. Grinding enamel generates intense friction heat. If the tooth gets too hot, the nerve inside cooks and dies. The Maya understood thermal transfer well enough to keep the tooth cool and hydrated throughout the entire operation. Now, you might be wondering, what about the screaming patient? While the Maya didn't have synthetic Novocaine, they possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of tropical botanical pharmacology. Before the procedure began, the patient was given potent herbal concoctions to dull both pain and anxiety. They chewed leaves of wild tobacco, which contain high concentrations of nicotine that produce a mild numbing effect. They utilized preparations of wild psychotropic morning glory seeds, specialized tree barks, and crushed leaves containing natural analgesics. Topically, The dentist applied numbing pastes derived from specific forest roots and crushed insects that produced local tingling and desensitization of the gums. By combining physical steadiness, rotational speed control, and botanical sedatives, the dentist could prepare a cavity socket in a matter of minutes without touching the nerve. Once the socket was drilled, the dentist needed to secure the gemstone. But you can't just press a piece of jade into a hole and expect it to stay when someone bites into hard corn or roasted meat. It requires glue. For nearly a century, historians wondered what this mysterious white and gray cement was made of. Some early researchers guessed it was simple tree sap or crushed lime plaster. Then, biochemist Gloria Hernandez Bolio and her team of scientists used gas chromatography and mass spectrometry to analyze the microscopic residues of sealant scraping from ancient teeth across Mesoamerica. What they discovered stunned the dental world. The Maya cement wasn't a crude sticky paste. It was an extraordinarily sophisticated multi-part pharmaceutical compound containing over 150 distinct organic molecules. Every single ingredient served a deliberate chemical and biological purpose. First came the structural binders. Natural pine tree tar and copal resin. Pine resin provided sticky adhesion and flexibility, preventing the glue from becoming brittle when chewed on. Second came waterproofing agents. Natural bitumen, an organic petroleum tar harvested from coastal seeps, which created an impenetrable seal that prevented saliva and food particles from leaking behind the stone. Third came the hardening fillers. Finely ground calcium phosphate, crushed animal bone powder, and pulverized limestone, which chemically bonded with the enamel and created a solid mortar similar in compressive strength to modern construction cement. And fourth, the most mind-blowing component of all, the active medicinal antibiotics. When scientists analyzed the chemical fingerprint of the resin, they found high concentrations of sclareolide, an organic compound found in plants of the salvia family. Sclareolide is a potent antibacterial and antifungal agent. They also found carvacrol and essential oils from wild aromatic mint plants, which modern medicine knows as powerful anti-inflammatory and antiseptic agents that specifically target and kill Streptococcus mutans, the exact bacteria responsible for human tooth decay. Think about what this means. When the Maya dentist pressed the gemstone into the socket, the cement didn't just hold the jewel in place. It sterilized the open wound. It seeped into the microscopic tubules of the dentin, creating a permanent antimicrobial barrier that killed invading bacteria, reduced swelling in the nerve, and prevented cavities from ever forming under the jewel. Long before modern Western medicine discovered germs or invented fluoride toothpaste, the Maya had engineered an organic, medicated restorative filling that protected the mouth against tropical decay. For a long time, skeptics argued that all of this was still just an accidental side effect of rich royals wanting shiny teeth. They pointed out that almost all known modified teeth were front incisors and canines, the teeth everyone sees when you smile. If it was really medicine, why didn't they put jade in the back teeth where people actually get bad cavities? In 2026, researchers examining a skeletal collection at the Popol Vuh Museum in Guatemala made a groundbreaking discovery that flipped the entire debate on its head. They found an ancient Maya skull with a perfectly fitted green jadeite inlay placed directly into the chewing surface of a deep posterior back molar. You cannot see someone's back molars in regular conversation. Nobody puts a cosmetic jewel on a back molar to show off to their friends. When researchers took high-resolution 3D CT scans of the molar, the internal structure revealed the whole truth. The tooth had suffered a deep, painful cavity. Inside the pulp chamber beneath the jade inlay, the bone had produced secondary dentin and calcification. A clear biological reaction that only happens when a living person's tooth heals itself after an infection is stopped. The ancient Maya dentist had drilled out the rotted decay from the back molar, sterilized the cavity with their antibiotic herbal cement, and packed the hole with a custom-carved jadeite plug to restore the tooth's biting surface. It was proof beyond doubt. The Maya were practicing functional, restorative, and therapeutic dentistry. They weren't just decorating healthy teeth. They were curing toothaches, sealing structural fractures, and saving patients from agonizing dental rot. To truly understand why the Maya went to such extreme lengths for their teeth, we have to understand how they saw the human body and the universe. In ancient Maya philosophy, the most vital life force of a human being was ik, the divine breath, wind, and spirit. Your breath was not just air coming out of your lungs. It was your connection to the gods, the cosmos, and the sacred wind deity. Because breath passed directly through the mouth, the teeth were seen as the sacred gateway of the soul. Having crooked, dirty, or decaying teeth was not just a physical problem. It meant your spirit was unrefined, and your words were spiritually impure. To purify and sanctify their breath, the Maya engaged in extensive tooth modification. Beyond gemstone inlays, they practiced elaborate tooth filing and shaping. Anthropologist Javier Romero categorized over 59 distinct patterns of Maya tooth alteration. Specialists used obsidian blades, flint files, and abrasive polishing stones to carve intricate shapes directly into the enamel of living people. Some filed their front incisors into sharp triangular points, mimicking the lethal fangs of the sacred jaguar, the apex predator of the jungle. Others filed deep notches into the sides of their central teeth, creating a distinctive T-shape. This T-shape was the literal hieroglyphic symbol for Ike and represented the divine sun god, Kinich Ahau. When a noble spoke with T-shaped teeth, their breath was visually and symbolically transformed into the breath of the sun god. Others carved horizontal grooves, inlaid multiple different colored stones into a single tooth, or stained their teeth with dark mineral pigments to highlight the contrast of their stones. And the choice of stone was never random. Jade was the single most precious material in the Maya world, worth far more than gold. To the Maya, the translucent green color of jade represented life-giving water, thriving green corn shoots, agricultural abundance, and eternal vitality. By placing a living piece of green jade directly into their teeth, an ancient Maya person was placing the essence of the maize god inside their mouth. Every word they spoke and every breath they exhaled was filtered through the sacred stone of life. When we look at ancient monuments and painted ceramics, we often see grand kings like Kinich Janab Pakal of Palenque covered in jade necklaces and feathered headdresses. It's easy to assume that having gemstones drilled into your teeth was a luxury reserved exclusively for royalty and high priests. But archaeological excavations across Central America revealed something surprising. Gemstone inlays were found in the burial plots of elite rulers, but they were also found in ordinary residential compounds, among local artisans, traders, farmers, and weavers. In many classic Maya cities, more than 50% of the adult population had some form of intentional dental modification. Both men and women received inlays in equal numbers. For commoners who couldn't afford imported green jadeite, dentists used local minerals: glittering gold-colored iron pyrite, black hematite, dark obsidian, or polished white shell. Dental modification functioned as a universal community rite of passage. When young men and women reached adolescence, usually between the ages of 12 and 18, they visited the dental specialist. Undergoing the painful drilling and receiving their toothstone was a badge of courage, adulthood, social identity, and spiritual maturity. Recent studies published between 2025 and 2026 even discovered jade inlays in the teeth of children as young as 7 to 10 years old, suggesting that in certain lineages, toothstones were installed early in life to protect growing children from oral diseases or to mark their sacred birthright within the community. As skilled as Maya dentists were, primitive surgery in the rainforest was never entirely risk-free. What happened when an operation went wrong? Looking at skeletal remains, bioarchaeologists have found cases where things took a painful turn. If a practitioner was inexperienced, if a tool slipped, or if a tooth had unusual internal anatomy, the drill could punch straight through the dentin and rupture the pulp chamber. When that happened, bacteria could overwhelm even the antibiotic cement. Archaeologists have identified ancient skulls showing signs of chronic alveolar abscesses, large hollow pockets eroded into the jawbone where severe bacterial infections pooled at the root tip of a misdrilled tooth. In other cases, Individuals filed their teeth so aggressively down to razor-sharp points that the enamel became too thin to chew without severe sensitivity to hot and cold. On these overfiled teeth, scientists often find thick layers of dental calculus, proving that the person stopped chewing food on that side of their mouth because of nerve pain. When severe infection took hold, the Maya turned to emergency oral medicine. They prepared hot mouth rinses brewed from the astringent bark of the guayacán tree, packed infected gums with pulverized chili peppers to stimulate blood flow and numb pain, or applied fresh pine pitch to draw out toxins. If all else failed and a tooth died completely, the specialist performed tooth extractions using sharp obsidian scalpels and strong lever tools, removing the rotting tooth before the infection could spread into the bloodstream and kill the patient. Today, modern dentistry is facing a quiet crisis. Millions of people suffer from secondary tooth decay because modern composite resin fillings slowly degrade, allowing bacteria to slip into the microscopic gaps between the filling and the tooth. Furthermore, bacteria are rapidly developing resistance to standard synthetic antibiotics. As a result, modern biomedical researchers are now actively analyzing the chemical formulations of ancient Maya dental cements. Scientists are studying how the natural blend of pine terpenes, sclereolide, carvacrol, and plant resins created a non-toxic, long-lasting bioactive seal that successfully fended off bacteria for over a millennium. The ancient Maya didn't view dentistry through the narrow lens of modern medicine. To them, there was no separation between aesthetics and health, science and spirituality, or beauty and survival. A single drilled tooth was simultaneously a work of art, a surgical intervention, a personal medicine cabinet, and a walking prayer to the gods. The next time you see someone wearing a modern gold grill or a diamond tooth gem, remember that 500 years ago, in the steaming jungles of Central America, ancient Maya dentists were already doing it better, with hand-powered bone drills, medicinal tree sap, and green jade that outlasted the rise and fall of civilizations.